Good evening, paranormal community. You are listening or watching the Odyssey Files. I am your host, Michael O'Neill. With me, as always, is my co-host, Mr. David Sawyering, who just vanished, was no longer part of the show before he can even say his first words. And he's back.
No.
I'm like, and he's gone.
And he's gone.
Everybody's that must have been your fault because I know I didn't have anything.
That was totally my fault. Yeah. Yeah.
It's like I'm about to speak. Nope, gone.
Yeah. Nope. Totally my bad. Sorry about that. Good evening, everybody. It's good to be here.
Yes. Yes, it is. So
missed a week. Was in rough shape last week. So
yes, and I felt like taking the day off too.
Exactly. So we took a little bit of a break.
Yes, we did. But we're back.
Yep.
And still working on the website. So those of you who are listening now or in the next week, you're waiting anxiously for the release of the website. Those who are listening a month or two from now, you don't care about anything that I have to say because it's already up and running.
Right.
The only thing that I will share, because I won't really put this as part of the site, is we unfortunately will not be able to go live on the site, but it will be up shortly thereafter. But it's coming along very, very nicely. I think you all are going to enjoy it. And yeah, that's all I'm going to say about that. So there is one thing that I do want to touch upon that while working on this website, I found out and did not know about, and I want to apologize because I did not approve of it, and neither did Dave. And that is the fact that our audio files for people who download from Spreaker and iHeart and Spotify and whatnot have to listen to commercials as part of our show, or at least before the show starts, they have to listen to a commercial. And I was very, very upset actually when I hit play on one of the files or whatever for like the first time ever. And I'm like, why is there a commercial for Home Depot? Mm-hmm. I'm like, I don't know what that's all about.
Home Depot's not sponsoring us.
Yes.
I don't have like a Home Depot hat or like a cool jacket from Home Depot or a gift card from Home Depot. So
exactly. So
get the hell off of our podcast.
Exactly. That was a network, the web network, that was their way of monetizing our show as part of their network. So right. I have looked into trying to, like, all of the files that will be on the website will be commercial-less, but unfortunately the most efficient way to do it is to use what gets uploaded to Spreaker, but the video version of it, which will be available, will not have that. So you can always turn on the video and then just listen to it, as I know a lot of people do. And I know we have some shows coming up that will feature like some videos or photos and whatnot. So you're going to want that anyway. So looking forward to getting that all out and available to everybody. But we have a great show today. Dave has been waiting a very long time to do thresholds. So we hope we can do it some justice. I learned some stuff, that terms and whatnot, and what's considered a threshold and during my research. So we're looking forward to that. But first, First, Mr. Sawyering.
Yep.
We have the Odyssey Files is proud to present the Mailbag. Yes, indeed.
The Mailbag.
The Mailbag. Before we get to listener stories, I have one of my own.
Yes,
which
you do.
I found was quite interesting, that I told Dave about a few days ago. And then during the second hour, Dave has his own story that he is going to tell. So,
yes, I do.
So we come prepared with our own
See what happens when we have a week off?
The spirits get angry with us.
Exactly. Yeah.
Get back on the show, you fools.
Yeah. What are you doing, Dave?
So, as longtime listeners of the show, or even I guess recent listeners of the show know, back in April, my father passed away, and still working on stuff with that. I guess you could say it's coming to an end with everything. But I went down to help my sister clean out the place, move the stuff up here. I talked about it, I believe, here on the show for a little bit. But so I have a bunch of his furniture in my garage, and then the furniture that I wanted to keep, like for the newly acquired guest room that Dave's old room.
Yep.
When he stayed here is now a guest room, and I used some of my father's furniture for that, including his Mac computer, his Apple computer. And he had it password protected, as we all do. Yeah, and he wrote down a bunch of them, and I thought I knew it, but it wasn't working. So for a long, long period of time, it's been sitting down there on his desk, since the end of April, off, because I have no need for it. Dave's the only one that's ever been here, for one night to stay over. So it's just remained off. So last Sunday, yeah, I believe it was Sunday. I go downstairs to do a load of laundry. Come around the corner to where I see the doorway leading into the guest room. Nobody's been even in the room for like a month since Dave was last there.
Yeah, it's been at least a month since we got together and kind of binged one of our favorite shows.
Exactly.
Yep.
And his computer and monitor is on, like glowing. It's on with the the password thing, wanting the password. And I'm like, okay, that's different, because like I said, it was off. It's not like it was in standby mode. So maybe like with like a truck running by, like a vibration moved the mouse and it popped up. No, off. And I turned it off and turned it back on. I think a little bit later, and you literally have to hold the button for like 3 seconds before this thing turns on. And this thing was on. So, and I don't know if I was doing it to myself. I might have been, because you know how you get those thoughts in your head, and you're like, yeah, my father's trying to tell me that he's here, that he's around.
Right. Yep.
But yeah, as soon as I saw the monitor on, whoo, static charge like all over the place. And I'm like, oh, come on. I'm like, I just want to do my laundry. I'm like, now I got to deal with this. But I did a little bit later in the night, I did go back down there again when I was going to throw my clothes into the dryer, and I turned on a recorder, and I said, I'm not going to investigate my own house. I'm like, but if you have something that you want to say, here's the recorder to do it. And I actually found his password sheet and typed in what I thought was the password, and hey, it worked. And while the recorder was going the entire time I was doing it, was on for like 5 minutes, and came back upstairs, listened to it, and I got nothing. So
it's a good thing.
But it's a good thing that I got nothing.
Mm-hmm. I think so.
I don't know. I thought it would.
I think you understand what happened.
Oh, sure.
Like he knew that you would understand that. He didn't have to say it. He knew that you would know that computers just don't turn themselves on.
Well, no, of course not. But it was one of those, like, did you just want to let me know that you were here, or did you want to let me know that you were here because you had something that you wanted to say? It was one of those, and obviously it was just to let me know,
just to say hi.
Yeah. Because I think, because upstairs in my living room, I have one of his photos, and then I have his Navy hat hanging off of it. And came upstairs and kind of looked at it and saw that the hat was on the floor. So, which it can happen,
Sure.
but it's been on his thing since and hasn't moved. So I'm wondering if he tried to knock the hat off and that didn't work. Because it may
Hey, you
maybe
didn't notice it type of
may
thing. Yeah.
maybe a little obtuse when I'm home.
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
little lack of observation, but
Yeah.
it's really hard to go downstairs and see the glow of a monitor that should be off,
Right.
glowing. So I just wanted to share that with everybody, that I thought that was an interesting experience that that I had. So we have people and their questions. We got to find them. Okay, here we go. Story number 1. Protection from spirits when ghost hunting. I already hate this question. So anyway, so oh, wait a minute, we already did that one. I'm sorry. That's what I wanted. The next one was kind of the one we were going to do. All right, questions about the science behind ghosts, and I like this one.
Mm-hmm.
I classify myself as a big hoper. I'm somewhere between skeptic and believer because I want it to be true, but I've never had a firsthand unexplainable ghost experience. I've seen shadows and heard noises and doors closing, but these are all things that could have a natural explanation. Anyways, my point of all this is I'm wondering where we got all the quote unquote science for ghosts if we still haven't proven their existence. How do we know that they can communicate through EMF? How do we know their chemical makeup or lack thereof to know that they'd respond to? If we don't, why are we putting so much time and energy into EMF when there could be a million different ways that they actually communicate? Are we just wasting our time, stunting ourselves with what everyone agrees is the right communication method for something that we're not even sure is real? I feel like if ghosts were real, it'd be a known fact. Something you could look up on Google, and Mr. Google would respond, yes, scientists have proven ghosts are real. The only exception to that would be maybe we're just not using the right tools. Maybe all the ghosts think we're slow when we shove boxes in their face and get giddy when it shouts out a word that even somewhat correlates to the question we asked. P.S. These are all questions coming from someone who has no clue about the science. There's no clue about the science. End of story. It was the end of the page. So I thought maybe there was more. So this is actually an exceptional question, and
It is a very good question,
and exceptionally valid questions because we tackle this all the time. All the time. I mean, how many times, Dave, have you and I argued about why isn't science doing this, or how about this, or why don't we look at this? And honestly, I think you're a little behind the curve with just thinking that we're all excited about EMF. I mean, EMF is one factor of what we do now, but I mean, obviously, way back, 12, 15 years ago, yeah, EMF was the greatest thing and was the only thing we had. I mean, when the K2 came out, everybody like blew their minds. Oh my God, these lights light up when we ask them about it.
Well, 25 years ago and 30 years ago, the hot thing on the market was the cassette recorder that you put the cassette in that had 8D batteries that cost you $12 a day to run because it just chewed up batteries.
Yeah.
Like they were free. And that's going back old school because I still somewhere have cassettes from my investigations 30 years ago.
Yeah.
I mean,
And
that's where it started. And
yeah,
observation, like a notepad really was the first thing because it was just you tried to observe something happening,
exactly.
and then documented it, wrote it down because that's all you could do.
So Dave and I honestly could have this discussion for like the entire hour because there's so much going on. So I'm going to try to wrap this up in a very general summary type of way. So I honestly, as a paranormal investigator, I think with the evidence that we have caught and the evidence that like legitimate evidence that has been caught, we have proven that there is something out there. Now, if you want to call it ghost, you can call it a ghost. I think a lot of people would, just because of how it interacts with us, how it looks, how the feel of it. But if you ask some religions, there's no such thing as ghosts, and everything is a demon trying to trick you. So I
Well,
mean,
Catholics. Yeah.
well, yes, exactly. Or Protestants, I believe, also do that too, because I've actually had a client talk to me about it. She's like, I have a really hard time with this because I was taught as a kid that
Mhm.
there's no such thing as ghosts. Everything
Mhm.
is a demon trying to trick you.
Mhm.
Um, so what paranormal investigators are doing, and I stress paranormal investigators and paranormal researchers, not ghost hunters, are trying to do now is figure that question out. We have moved away from EMF. Yeah, EMF is cool, but it has so many natural explanations to
Mhm.
it that it really has to be over and over, like science, over and over and over. How many times we ask for clarification? Can you confirm this? Can you do it again?
Mhm.
Because we also want that scientific data. We want that over and over
Yeah,
experience,
repetition. I mean,
repetition.
that's right.
Thank you
It's a
for summarizing.
big deal. Yeah, it's a big deal in our field.
It is,
So if you
because
can get something to repeat the same thing at the request, that's a big deal.
exactly. And as we grow in this field and more people come into it with their ideas and their theories, we are going to expand more and more and more. And sooner or later, I have no idea when, we are actually going to find a way to breach that, where it's turn this on, turn it to a certain frequency, and you are going to be able to do what you need to do to talk to the other side. We are not there yet. We are constantly trying to figure that out. More experiments, different experiments. I have one that I'm trying to do with frequency and analyzers and all this other stuff, to see if it's a frequency thing as to how we communicate. They can hear us easily and we can hear them. But that all takes time. Um, so I fully appreciate your passion for this and the fact that you have these questions, because we all do. Just know that that's something that we are all working on, all of us in the field, not Dave and I, and not the people on TV or anything like that. We are all trying to make that discovery, or at least help the field along the way. Get that next step. Um, so yeah, you're up.
Okay. So, real quick, just to add on to your point before I get into my points, um, I think that white noise was toyed with for a long time, or
Mhm.
maybe not even long enough, in my opinion. But I think white noise, like even going back to the movie White Noise with Michael Keaton, where they would turn the TV on and then put cassettes in and let it run and then record it, or do the looping of the television sets, right? And open up this white noise channel where you could get things to come through. I've seen some pretty amazing things using that type of experimentation method. I haven't done it myself because I just haven't bothered to set it up, and it's kind of cumbersome to have to carry, two 19-inch TV, console TVs into a client's house. Um, but I think that avenue needs more exploration, and it just popped into my head as you were talking about it. So I think this is an excellent question myself, as well as you do. I think that, and I'm going to say this because this is my biggest pet peeve, and it's not all scientists, but if you fit into this, what I'm about to say, don't be pissed off because you deserve to hear what I have to say. So if you're a scientist and you are not investigating paranormal activity because you are worried about what your fellow scientists or the people that are giving out the grants are going to say or do, then I'm sorry, but you're missing out on probably the greatest unexplored uh, opportunity that exists today, in my opinion. I think that if science would dedicate just a little bit, if a group of really good scientific minds got together and said, look, I'm old enough now, I've got a ton of money, I don't need grants anymore. We've been shied away from this, just like fighter pilots are told that they're not allowed to talk about UFOs, and commercial airline pilots are told they're not allowed to talk about things they see in the sky they can't explain. I'm sure that the scientific community is kind of smothered by that same mentality of that's just pseudoscience and fake science and it's bullshit and it's not real and we're not going to waste our time and energy and resources on it. But if they did, we would be much further ahead than we are right now. Much further. And I don't know that that's a fact, but I'm telling you what, my gut is telling me that I'm right. So we would be way farther ahead. But because it's all of us people that are not scientists that are investing our own time, our own money, our own energy into trying to figure out this incredible puzzle, it's taking longer. So I think that we will. I agree with Mike wholeheartedly. I think that we will find a way. I think that someday there will be kind of like a ghost radio, and I don't, not a spirit box, but like I'll just use the term loosely, like ghost radio here in air quotes for people not watching, that you can tune something in, and you might not be able to have a conversation like we're having right now. That might not be the case, but you'll be able to listen in to another realm's conversation and what's happening in their world, like a fly on the wall or a spy. And maybe somewhere down the road, when that wall gets breached, and then we learn more about it, and greater minds just put time and effort into it, then maybe that next step will be limited communication with the other side. And do I think it's out there? Absolutely. Is it going to be in my lifetime? Absolutely not. But I'm excited for it to continue. And I'm excited that I'm contributing when I'm contributing now. So, I think it's all good. Other than that, what did I want to say about this? Nothing. It's a great question.
I do have one more thing I want to add really quick.
Yeah.
And that, and this person brought it up as well. The line about, we get all giddy as it shouts out a word that even
like
somewhat correlates,
kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, obviously that's a shot to the obvious, and it should be. So, I mean, the thing that I want to point out here is that now that this has become such a mainstream thing, and that it has turned to people trying to make money off of it, it's turned into an entertainment franchise. There are now a lot of distractions.
There are. Right.
And things like the Ovilus, things like the spirit box, those are almost never going to be a part of any scientific study when it comes to the paranormal. They are, these apps you use on their phone that say for entertainment purposes only, they are not going to be part of any scientific study. And it's almost because of their, at least I believe, because of their existence is one of the reasons why science won't take us seriously. Because we have all of this garbage that's piling over legitimate people who want to find the answers that we're I shouldn't say we all, but that we are looking for.
Yeah, I can't let you bash the spirit box though, because you and I have had some phenomenal results with the spirit box, and when we were at the werewolf house, and I said how many entities are trapped here, and it said 9, and I said, can you tell me your names?
Werewolf house?
Well,
I know which one you're talking about. But
I just threw it out there because
house.
No. Well, it is because of it is, and you know why. Anyway, I don't want to keep referencing it as the house that it is, just in case. But I asked specifically, how many people are trapped here, and it said 9, very distinctly. And then I said, can you tell me your names? And I got 9 names, and they were male and female, and they were clear.
Mhm. I was
Barb,
there.
Don, da da da, and it went around, and there were 9 exact names given in both a male and female voice, and it wasn't static and bullshit from a radio station bleeding in. It was legitimately answering my question specifically. So I think that the spirit box has its place. I think that too many people hear, when they first get it and turn it on, they hear the very first thing, which is like that little blurb of a radio commercial that comes in, and they're like, oh my God, did you hear that? And then, and they don't know what they heard, but then everybody else in the room that doesn't have any experience either gets all excited, and then they just start making up what they heard. That's what needs to stop. Really. I mean, you need to listen to what it's doing.
I agree. The spirit box has this place in an investigation. It's not going to have a place in any sort of scientific study.
No, right. They're going to have to, none of the shit we use is going to have anything except for maybe video or photography. I mean, but nothing else that we're doing right now.
Well, recorders.
Well, EMF, yeah.
But
yeah, right. Audio.
Yeah.
But so, I mean, they're going to come up with something, right? Like some kind of camera that will actually be able to detect the energy mass come into the room. Mm-hmm. And there's been some, I'm looking back at shows. There's been some shows and some documentaries where people have used stuff that they have built themselves that kind of looked like it was working. And there were other things happening that kind of correlated it as to this might really be seeing something.
And
it seems like those paths never get explored further is my frustration.
Well, a lot of it, and this is why science needs to come into it, is a lot of it is scientific equipment. But like we all know, like science and medical equipment is beyond expensive.
Well, it is, right?
I mean, if you want a very decent FLIR, which is a scientific instrument, like it's used in real life purposes, you're looking at 10, 20, 30 grand.
Right.
There's when you were talking about cameras and stuff like that, what came to mind, I can't remember, it's like the EMCA or whatever camera that
reads protons or whatever,
that reads like light proton, like these,
microscopic things. Yeah,
exactly. But that's an $8,000 camera, right? I mean, there's no wonder we're all using K2s and millimeters because it's like $250 and under.
Right.
I mean, it's what we can afford.
Well, it makes me think too that remember when I approached Doug with, I really wanted to have something made that could differentiate like odors. So like when you walk in and you're sitting in a room asking questions and all of a sudden you get hammered with this really strong woman's perfume for 15 seconds and then it's gone. I'd like to be able to document that somehow other than a personal experience. And I remember Doug said he talked to some of his buddies, looked into it. And number one, the cost would be prohibitive to build something like that. And number two, it'd be the size of like a bookcase, like you couldn't make it portable. So, again, a good idea, just it's not ready to be made today. Maybe that'll be something down the road that they will use though. Maybe. Who knows?
Exactly. We're just going to keep, forging forward and doing what we can. So, all right, moving on.
Otherwise, we're going to be stuck on this one the whole hour. So, all right. I was wondering, do half broken mirrors have any paranormal meaning or broken mirrors at all? So, at my grandpa's house, So my grandpa's house is known to be haunted. My mom played with a Ouija board in it when she was a teenager and she didn't know any better. We've had some paranormal experiences in the house before. And the other day, my mom was doing her makeup with one of those tabletop mirrors that is a regular mirror on one side and the magnified mirror on the other. Anyway, we were sitting there talking while she was doing her makeup, and the other side of the mirror that she wasn't using just suddenly broke in half. It wasn't just a crack. Half the mirror actually fell out. Now, keep in mind, neither of us had touched the mirror or what the mirror was sitting on. and the mirror had no cracks or any damage in it beforehand. It was perfectly fine condition. It just suddenly split in half on one side right in the middle of our conversation, and that half of the glass fell off. I was wondering if this has any paranormal meaning. Okay, so there's one huge piece of information here that I wish you would have included, is what was the conversation? Because without knowing that, it's really difficult for me to like dive into whether this is paranormal or not. Is it weird that you're sitting there and a mirror on a makeup mirror just cracks and breaks in half and falls out when nobody's touching it and it wasn't damaged prior to anything? Is that strange? Yeah, totally. Absolutely. I'm with you 100%. 100%. That is absolutely not normal. Something happened. For me, do I think it's because of the Ouija board? No, I don't. Could the house be haunted? Sure, it could be. Do I think it's because mom played with the Ouija board one time when she was a teenager, scared the crap out of herself, and then threw it in the box and never touched it again? No, because there've been a whole lot of other stuff going on that you'd be talking about other than a makeup mirror breaking in half 30 years later. So I don't know why the mirror broke, but is there a paranormal meaning to it? Not that I'm aware of. I don't know that a mirror breaking has really any paranormal context to it. Broken mirrors, obviously 7 years of bad luck, but that's not paranormal. So I'm going to say no. I'm going to say it's not paranormal. I don't think the Ouija board comes into play. I think your grandpa's house could be haunted. I don't think that an entity would break the mirror to try to get your attention. I think it would be something more subtle than that. Again, depending on what the conversation was. And that without knowing that, I'm going to have to stick with my answer and say, no, it was not paranormal.
I want to agree with you. But there's a couple other things. I 100% agree with you that it has nothing to do with the Ouija board. I don't think that their conversation had anything to do with it either, although that is an exceptionally valid question to ask. But if he doesn't know or have any sort of idea why the mirror would break, I don't think that they were talking about anything important. Because it's almost always part of the story where, like, we were talking about my grandpa that had just passed away, or my grandma, or we were talking about this or that, and then all of a sudden the mirror broke. Could it be them? I mean, the fact that he was like, it broke for no reason, to me, it makes me believe that he doesn't believe that whatever they were talking about had any sort of significance to it whatsoever. I also, I'm nitpicking here, but for some reason I find it amusing to do so. There's no such thing as a half broken mirror. The mirror's busted or it's not. Yeah. You can't have a half broken mirror. But I get what you're trying to say. I'm just being a picky ass hat right now when it comes to that. So or petty, I want to say, not picky. Now, I guess my next question is, are you sure that it did not have any sort of crack or even a smidgen or anything on the other side? I mean, you weren't using it, so it's probably facing the wall. And I'm sure you probably, neither you nor your mother probably examined the mirror before she started to use it. But I mean, we have all seen like a little smidgen of a crack in our windshield, and then the slightest little, and it shoots across the entire windshield, and now it has to be replaced. So, I mean, could this be an instance where a truck ran by and shook everything and made a minuscule crack into a huge one and finally just pushed it over that edge to the point where it cracked and obviously would fall out? I don't know. Because again, there's a little bit more information that I think we could use. I don't think this was any sort of, let's just say for the sake of argument that it is something paranormal, I don't think it was any sort of warning or attack or any sort of negative thing on you or your mother. It could simply just be a spirit trying to reach out and maybe got a little overboard. Maybe they wanted to move the mirror and there was too much energy in it and it cracked it.
Mhm.
That's another one of those things about the other side that we don't understand is how their energy, when they try to do stuff, interacts with us. I mean, we've often talked about, scratches. Maybe they weren't meant to be scratches at all. Maybe they just meant to tap them on the shoulder or something like that. And, too much power
Mhm.
went into it. Um, don't know how we would experiment with that, but maybe we can one day. But yeah, I think that there could be so many more natural explanations as opposed to paranormal ones. So because I do believe this is going to be a one-off incident, I don't think it's going to happen again. Um, I think you're probably fine. I don't think it has any sort of significant meaning to you, or that should anyway. Moving on.
Yep.
All right. This is an interesting one because I have no idea what this is. All right. About 8 to 10 years ago, I was into the whole watching death videos thing. Safer videos from YouTube or the hard stuff from Live Leak. Never even heard of that before. Maybe I'm just
Mhm.
old. Well, during a few months period, there was something I had spotted that was very odd in some of these videos. Something that I would catch the eye of every now and then. I would see it in a video, then over weeks, watch 10 more, then suddenly in video 11, there it is again. It was the coolest yet creepiest thing I've ever seen. I instantly figured that it had to be a prank, that someone was editing random videos and adding it. However, I would instantly jump to the YouTube comments or live leak comments and couldn't ever find a single person mentioning this thing. It always showed up just seconds before the person died. What was it? Oh, man, wrong, wrong tone. What was it? There we go.
Yep. There you go.
So, so the most memorable video that comes to mind is of a woman trying to exit the universe. She's standing out a window many stories up as people down below record. Of course they are. Suddenly, there it is, far off in the distance on the side of the building. You see this dark, transparent, cloth like thing inching its way up the building like it's alive, and it's moving frantically. Then, lady jumps. Right as she hits the ground, this cloth thing just goes limp and flutters down to the ground as if it had died. Well, that was strange. Another video was shooting a video.
It was a shooting video.
Oh, it was a shooting video. Okay, you're right. I just read that wrong. It was a shooting video. I forget the details, but a man shoots some people. Great. Why would you not want to spend your time watching that all the time? Anyways, off in the distance again, on the side of a building, there it is, moving frantically. Then, as soon as the trigger is pulled, it falls limp and flutters down. Over the course of a few months, I had seen about 4 or 5 videos where this thing appeared. I then tried looking it up and never found any information. Fast forward to today, and I seen that ghost video of the guy going into his room, and there's a black cloth-like thing on his window curtains, and it shoots down behind the bed. That video instantly reminded me of what I had seen a decade ago. That thing looked exactly like what I had seen. I'm guessing it was just someone adding CGI and hoaxing people, making it out as if the entity is around, as if it feeds off death. Anyways, figured I would ask here and see if you guys remember seeing any of these videos in the dark, transparent cloth-like thing. Trying to track those videos down. I have not, as in before I started reading this, said I have no idea what you're talking about. I am going to guess, though, one of two things. I think if it were there on the video, like actually climbing up the wall, I think more people would have noticed it. This might be something where only you can see it. And I don't mean like you have like a mental handicap or anything like that. I mean, it could just be something that is there, but it's not supposed to be seen. Is it a reaper? I have no idea. Is it something that is around us all the time, and you just, not many people are able to see it? I don't know. Um, Obviously, you were seeing it in videos that all have to deal with death, except obviously that guy that like walked into his room. But so it's got to be something that deals with that type of an event in life. Uh, what? I have no idea. I've never heard of it before. I've never seen it. I don't think many people have, or there would probably there would be something about it somewhere on the internet. I'm sure Reddit would be all over that like a rat on a Cheeto, and it's not. So unfortunately, I can't. Maybe Dave can, but my answer is that it might just be meant uh, something that only like you and maybe a select few others are able to see.
Mm-hmm. That's what I think. I mean, that's a perfect segue. So, you know what this totally reminds me of? This totally reminds me of the frenetic energy Tasmanian devil thing that was at the hospital when I was in the hospital. Right? The way that they say it moves like in a frantic type of thing, that description to me is exactly like what this thing moved like. It was, you know, this chaotic energy that just shifted and morphed. Even though it wasn't moving, it looked like it was, just because of the way that the energy was flowing through it. So I'm going to say that this probably, I'm going to try and find this now. I'm going to say that this probably was out there, and especially with the fact of what was happening in the videos. um I'm going to say that it's not a reaper, but I'm going to say this is some sort of parasitic type of thing that feeds off of death, which I think is exactly what that thing was that was at the hospital in my room. uh I think it was there because there was a lot of pain and suffering and misery on the floor I was on, and there were a couple people that died while I was there, and I was close to dying a couple times. And I think that that thing was there because of that. I think it was there just absorbing death. And so it does not surprise me in any way, shape, or form that somebody would catch something very subtle in a video that they saw. Now, I like your idea of, and we've said this a million times, is that sometimes when you see something or experiencing something, it's only meant for you. Um, I can't tell you how many times we've heard disembodied voices, and we'll be standing right next to each other. And I'm like, did you, I know you just heard the guy answer you. Nope. And or vice versa, or somebody like, when we were at a location for an event, I watched this this smoke move, through a couple classrooms, and then turn and then go to an abandoned bathroom that had a chute that kind of went through all three floors. And one of the females that was with me that night saw it with me, and the other two people that were there didn't see it at all. But one of them felt that something was off as we were walking, and when we got to the abandoned bathroom, it it was just small. It wasn't big, and it wasn't uh, aggressive. It was shy, and it was just trying to get away from us. And I just saw it, and I couldn't stop chasing it down. And when it got into that bathroom, I think it felt trapped, and it went from 4 feet tall and 2 feet wide to filling up the whole entire space and taking the whole entire doorway and blocking it out. And it wasn't a leave me alone or I'm going to kill you, or it wasn't like I'm going to possess you. It wasn't nothing like that. There was no negative energy behind it. It was just I think a reaction of fear. And that was the emotional burst of that, is just, hey, leave me alone, and like if somebody screamed, stop it really loud, like if a human being screamed help or stop it or something like that, and all that energy came pouring out, that's exactly what it looked like happened. And then it just disappeared. And then we didn't see it the rest of the weekend, but it was cool as hell to see. So I think that this person probably did see something, honestly. Only because I can match this up to kind of sounding like my hospital experience. So I think that, I think that they probably saw something cool. Now, of course, I do have to look it up. So that'll be research. I'll be researching this and see if I can go back into Live Leak and see if I can find some of these videos. Although I don't want to watch people getting killed videos, but
Yeah.
All right. So here's an interesting one. My fiance appeared in 2 different places in our apartment. So for a little context, my fiance and I have been living in an apartment since December of 2023. When we first moved in, she would have terrible visions about an old lady visiting her while she was sleeping. She said this entity was evil and wanted to cause us harm. Our apartment is also laid out to where you can walk through the bathroom, into the bedroom, into the living room and kitchen, and back into the bathroom. Sounds like a maze. After about a month, my fiance had her grandma come in and bless the place. Since then, my fiance has not had any bad dreams, although they've increased for me tenfold. Well, one night when my fiance was getting ready to take a bath, give me 1 second because I got to backtrack. So getting ready to take a bath, and there it is. Sorry. She's getting ready to take a bath. I was doing dishes and I looked to my left into the bathroom where she was just kind of standing there staring at the water. I then heard movement from the bedroom and I looked at the bedroom to see my fiance come out. I looked back at the bathroom and the entity was facing me, but it had no face. It was just skin. But I could somehow tell that it was looking directly at me. And I felt this intense, crippling headache. I fell to the ground holding my head, and then it subsided and my fiance was standing over me with a worried look on her face. I looked at the bathroom and what I had seen was completely gone. A few months have passed since then and nothing else has happened until today. I've been out of work with a torn muscle in my back and I've been home alone a lot. Today, while sitting on my couch, the TV remote was sitting on my armrest and I got up to grab some water. When I got up, I felt something hit my back hard, right where the muscle
is torn.
Oh, I got to put these in better order. That's what happens when you don't get downstairs. And when you got a bad back yourself and you don't get down to the office to put stories together like I normally do. So right where the muscle is torn, I turn around and the remote is sitting on the floor at my feet, the way it was positioned on my armrest. There's no way it could have been flung that fast and that hard. It felt like someone or something threw it at me. I want to get my fiance's grandma back in to bless the place, but I'm afraid it would make things worse as it appeared to last time. Any ideas? Absolutely, you came to the right place. Got a bunch of ideas for you. Number one, something happened in the blessing with the grandma that somehow protected her granddaughter, but didn't protect you. And I'm going to say that it didn't protect you because you didn't believe it. You didn't believe in what was happening. And when you don't believe in something, you don't get the protection. We've talked about this a million times on the show as well. If you don't believe in the power of black tourmaline, don't go to the store and buy a black tourmaline bracelet and then run around trying to conjure up the devil thinking that the black tourmaline bracelet's going to save you when you don't believe in it in the first place. The same thing here. If the grandma's doing something and you don't believe in what she's doing or saying, or you don't participate, you don't actively participate and claim your space, you just let them do it while you sat on the couch and played video games or watched a football game. Nothing wrong with either one of those things, but I'm just saying there was something important going on. Now you're a target. And that's exactly what I think happened here. That's exactly what my gut is telling me happened here. You didn't participate. Now you're the weak link in the house. And now it's targeting you because you don't have any protection. So should you get grandma back in there? Well, it seemed to work really good last time she was there. So whatever she did seemed to take effect. Your fiance has been perfectly fine. I would get grandma back in there. And all three of you should participate wholeheartedly in what grandma is doing. Okay. Secondly, I think this thing is, it sounds to me like old hag syndrome with the old lady kind of messing with your fiance. I think that what you saw is not evil, but I also wouldn't say it's just a ghost either. It's somewhere in the, it's somewhere in a blend of something like that, where I don't like the fact that it took on your form of your fiance and then turned around with like just a skin face and then shot its energy at you to the point where you were crippled with a blinding, like instantaneous migraine and fell to the floor. So whatever it is, it obviously is either A, is already attached to you and able to attack you freely, or B, is extremely strong. Um, and I mean extremely strong, that it could somehow kind of psychically cripple you like that. Um, I can't really say what it is, but I would get grandma back in there. That would be the first part of this. And then from there, I would continuously bless the house and kind of bring in some things that you can ground with and take back your space. Like we talk about all the time, but I would definitely bring in some things that you believe in, that you have faith in. If it's a holy cross, if it's holy water, if it's crystals, if it's a Buddha statue, if it's something Hindu, I don't care what it is. If you can put your faith in that object or that thing and use it to ground yourself and protect your space, you're going to be okay. But I don't like where this is headed, to be honest. So, but I'm not going to elaborate anymore because we're getting short on time.
I don't want you to bring grandma back in. I want you to bring somebody else than grandma, because I think grandma left you out to die. I think grandma's blessing blessed her daughter, not you. Yeah, and plus, and I guess the good way of testing that is to ask grandma to come back in, and see if she will. Because if nothing's happening with the daughter, she might not have any motivation to actually help you at all.
Right. That could happen too.
Yeah. Right. So, I mean, I would bring in somebody to bless the house. Yes. More so, or more specifically, bless you. I'm almost thinking if there is any sort of entity, it was probably trying to attach itself to your fiance. And then when grandma's blessing came in, it couldn't anymore and attached itself to you.
And it's angry.
And being a non-believer, that means you're not putting up any defenses. I have a feeling that your fiance probably had some sort of open and closed mind type thing. Because if grandma knows how to do blessings, then like blessings, paranormal, the spiritual world has been part of your fiance's upbringing. So she would have had some sort of at least background knowledge of how to point this out, or how to get rid of it, I should say. I honestly wonder if that's where the headache came from. Not so much that this entity was blasting him with power, but for some reason, when he finally saw it, what are you going to do when you see something like that? You're immediately going to throw up your defenses. You're immediately going to be on edge. You're going to be ready to fight. And I think that his sudden pain was him blocking the entity from him.
Could be.
And kind of push that energy out. So I'm wondering if what he saw was more in his mind than it was physically there. Which doesn't make it any less troubling or
dangerous.
Intense.
Yeah, right.
Dangerous. That's what I was looking for.
Right.
It doesn't make it any less harmful. Right. So I mean, obviously this entity wants to hurt you in some fashion. For what reason, I have no idea. So I mean, I would follow Dave's advice. I would bring somebody else in, though, a priest, something like that. If you're religious, or somebody who is more neutral to the family or to you two than grandma, to do a blessing and see if that helps, and very much so do a blessing on you, because I think right now it has attached itself to you in some fashion. So you're going to need somebody to break that
You're gonna have
tie.
to cut that cord.
You're going to have to cut that cord, and then you should be able to get rid of it. Although if it is throwing stuff at you and it is showing itself to you without a face or whatever, it's probably not going to go willingly. So yeah, I would prepare yourself, unfortunately, for a little bit of
fight.
Yeah, a little bit of a fight. All right, one last one.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. We're not leaving that one for next week.
That's a good call. All right. I was a skeptic until I did a spirit box. Just love this story. Anyway, so pretty recently, me, my girlfriend, and my little brother all did a spirit box in my attic at around 10:30 at night. I connected headphones to the spirit box and put them on, so when they asked questions, I couldn't hear it, but I would say what I would hear come from the spirit box, the Estes method. We did this for maybe 10 minutes, and my girlfriend is holding my hand and my brother is next to me, and I feel them both jump. So I took the headphone off as fast as I could, and something got thrown down the attic stairs. I turned the attic lights on to investigate, and I saw a battery at the bottom of the stairs and rolled it down the top of them to see if it was the same noise. To my surprise, it was the same exact noise. We were all very scared and turned the lights on and did it again with nothing happening for 15 minutes. We gained the courage up to do it again with the lights off and no headphones on, so everyone could hear it. Very clearly, in 5 minutes of us starting again, we all heard, "Will you listen to me?" And something got thrown down the stairs again. Are we safe to do this again, or is this a demonic presence living in my house? We are all incredibly scared to go up there and do it again in fear of something getting thrown at us. Can someone please give us advice? Yes, I can. Stop doing that.
Ta-da!
Yeah. Okay. So a lot of us, we have been accused, because Dave and I are very anti Ouija board.
Oh, yeah.
And so a lot of people are like, well, when you use a spirit box, aren't you pretty much doing the same thing? And I know, and we all have our answer, and there's no need to go into that answer. Just no, they are different. However, one, you don't have a demonic presence in your house.
No.
Because one, a demon isn't going to be, will you listen to me? They don't.
And it's not going to roll a battery down the stairs either.
Yeah, right.
It's going to stick it in your eye socket.
But what you are doing, and this is why we have very strict rules in using spirit boxes as well, is you are opening yourself up. I mean, especially when you're young. You're not doing it as intensely or as focused as a Ouija board, but you're still doing that. And the thing about the spirit box is that it can bring in spirits from all over. It's not tied to your home. It's not tied to your neighborhood. There's people on TV. There's people at events who are talking to spirits that they met in 4 states away. They're at the Conjuring house talking to a spirit that lives in the Stanley. And so you could have attracted a spirit who was trying to get your attention because it saw that you were trying to make contact with it. I don't think that it is demonic in any way, shape, or form. I think it was just trying to get your attention. So here's my advice. Stop what you're doing. You obviously don't know what you are doing. And if you have something happen like this, you're going to freak out every time.
Mhm.
So why are you doing this to begin with? You're trying to get that interaction, and then when you get it, your
Run away.
your mind is blown. I mean, and I understand you're
Mhm.
not talking about, you're not so much scared about things, but you're scared of something happening. Just leave it alone. That's it. I know it's fun. It's very attractive to do something up in your attic for free. Obviously, you guys are doing to the point where uh, you are attracting things, and
Mhm.
that could, after opening up these doors and maybe not even closing them because you don't know what you're doing again, uh, could actually bring in something that is not going to leave as easily as you might like.
Right.
So it's just for your own safety. Just get off. And no, you don't have a demon in your house
No.
again.
So 3 quick things. Number 1, I'm gonna bet you this wasn't the first time they did it.
Oh God, no.
They make it sound like it's this innocent thing, like, "Oh, we just thought we'd go up there and try this." No, yeah, this has been going on for a long time because you did get something's attention, obviously, and usually you don't put out that much energy to get something's attention that rapidly the very first time you do something like that. It takes time. Number 2, I think that you need to go back up to the attic and apologize. Uh, all of you that were there that night, you all need to go upstairs. You all need to go up into the attic, and you all need to just say, "Hey, look, we weren't trying to be disrespectful. We weren't trying to like cause any harm. We're not trying to make you leave or to like make you perform like a circus monkey. We just were excited and we were curious and we're sorry if that offended you." And then leave the attic, right? And just let it rest for a while. If somewhere down the road you want to play around with it again, you don't have to go to the attic. If the thing's in your house, it's in your house. It's not in the attic. Because we're gonna segue this right into thresholds. We haven't been good at segues for a while, man. We're kicking segues ass tonight. So it's not trapped in your attic. So you can go anywhere in the house. It doesn't need to be in the basement. It doesn't have to be in the dark.
It doesn't even have to be in the house.
It doesn't even have to be in the house. You can be sitting in the backyard at the picnic table and do it and get a response. So, yeah, I'm going to assume these are teenagers.
Yeah.
Uh, you know, watch it on YouTube. Watch other people do it. Watch it on TV. If you're really interested in your when you want to get that rush, watch other people do it and let them take the dive and not you would be my advice. Um, you know, that would be my advice. I don't want to keep dwelling on it. So just apologize to whatever entity you contacted that's angry, that was shouting at you. Um, obviously was not there to harm you. Otherwise, the battery would have gone someplace else other than rolling down the stairs. And get your kicks by watching something on YouTube or whatever, and leave the spirits alone until you get a little older. And then if you're interested, find a mentor and learn the right way. Would be my advice.
Fair enough.
Fair enough. All right. So, segueing into thresholds, I have a story to start with before we get into thresholds.
Yes,
so,
you do.
Okay. So, earlier this week, I was projecting out and I was doing some traveling. And I found myself kind of instantly taken out of where I was and where I wanted to be and taken by something to this other spot. And so I find myself walking in, it wasn't the desert, but it was kind of sandy, little loamy, rocky, low scrub brush type of environment, kind of reddish.
So Arizona.
Yeah, maybe Arizona. I'm thinking possibly Australia in the outback. Kind of like it reminded me a little bit of that too. So I'm walking, don't know why I'm there, but something brought me here. So I'm like, okay, that's fine. I'll check it out. So I'm walking, everything's fine. And I stop and I'm just looking around like this. And all of a sudden I look and there's an older gentleman standing maybe 100 eh, 50 yards from me. And he's waving like this. And, come on over. And so I said, yeah. So I proceeded to start walking towards him. And as I walked towards him, I noticed that he's probably between 80 and 100 years old. Very, very dark skin, very intense, intelligent eyes. I could close my eyes and see his face right now. That's how clear it was.
Did you have a dream about Morgan Freeman?
No, no. And he kind of motions to me to come closer and come closer. So I do. And pretty soon I'm standing kind of right in front of him. And so he smiles and he motions like to give me a hug. And I'm like, yeah, I absolutely, I'll give you a hug. And so he didn't speak at all. And so we embrace and I give him a hug. And I should say, right. So he's standing there, no shirt on, kind of like, like a Tarzan type of loincloth type of thing. And then bare legs, no shoes, socks, no nothing. Right. So no weapon on him, no spear, no knife, no nothing like that. And he had writing on him, on his body. Tattoos, but there was writing, symbolism, and actual like old lettering. And so he motions me to give him a hug. And so I reach in and I give him a hug. And it's this really, really intense, warm, radiating, positive hug, like what you would think one of your guardian angels would give you on a bad day, right? Like that kind of hug. Okay. That's what it felt like. And then I let him go. And as I let him go, there's an 8-year-old boy standing in front of me with really funky hair. And he smiles. And I look at him and he's got a handprint right here on his chest, like on his rib cage. There's a little kid's handprint about this big on his rib cage. And then he stands there and I'm looking at the handprint and I'm not looking at his face anymore. And I'm like, why is there a handprint on his rib cage? And what happened to the old man? Why is there an 8-year-old boy standing in front of me now? And then I felt this incredible warmth. And I literally, like you see in the movies, I got sucked out, man. And I was back to where I was originally. Like back to our original scheduled program. I was back to where I wanted to be, where I had taken myself. So this, whatever this entity was, whoever he was, well, whatever it was, showed itself as a human man. Whatever it was, had the power to come find me while I was projecting and then draw me to him to get something. And the only thing that keeps resonating in my gut is that I had something that he needed to complete like his rebirth. And I have no idea what that was. But like he needed something from me or somebody like me. He needed that hug. And by giving him that hug, I kind of gave him the last piece of the puzzle that he needed. That's what I feel like. Like the circle of life completed, that hug completed that transformation. And there he was like an innocent little boy again, not this old, wise, really old man that was standing there when I first walked over. It was intense. I woke up crying.
Sounds like he stole your energy.
But I don't feel that though. I don't feel like when I woke up, I didn't feel like I was attacked. And I didn't feel lethargic. I had a great day the next day. I haven't had any bad experiences since then. So, and part of me thought that too. Part of me thought like in an energy vampire type of like a way that he stole from me in order to accomplish what he wanted to accomplish. But my gut tells me that's not what happened. My gut tells me that he was missing a piece of something that he needed that embrace gave him. I don't know. I'm going to talk to Jody about it. Let's see what she thinks. I haven't talked to her yet. So Jody, if you're listening, hit me up on this question, on this thing that I had.
I actually sent her a message this afternoon, which she never responded to.
She's on the road. She's just coming back from an event, so she'll be around tomorrow.
Oh,
but
nice
yeah, I'm gonna talk to her about it and see what she thinks, because I don't think it was a guardian angel of mine, but it was some type of spiritual being. And I don't think it was a negative experience. Like I said, I don't feel like anything got stolen from me.
Well, it obviously has something to do with something that you had to willingly do.
Right.
Because it's not like he jumped at you to latch onto you. He was like, I would like a hug. Will you willingly give me one?
Right. Correct. Yep. So he asked me if it was okay. Like, he didn't come running at me. He asked me to come over. And I did, because I didn't feel anything bad. And then we kind of just stood there and looked at each other for a little while. And then he asked me, for the hug, and I gave it to him. And like I said, it was a very warm embrace. Now, was that warmth that I was feeling my energy transference of me losing energy into him? Possibly. I don't know. I guess that's beyond the conceptualization of science. I mean, if you really want to start looking at what science can and can't prove, I remember watching years ago when the guy told Jason Hawes, when Jason and Grant were still together back in the day, when the guy told Jason Hawes that he would be able to take his energy, and they put the FLIR on the guy, and the guy actually was sucking the energy from Jason's body through his hand, holding hands. And you could see the guy pulling the heat, pulling out of Jason's body into this other guy, like he was drinking Jason's energy. So is it possible? Well, in that situation, it sure as hell looked like it was real to me. Like it was really happening. What happened to me, I have no idea, but I don't feel any worse for the wear. So, but I thought it was pretty incredible. So I thought I'd share it with the fans and with you.
Yeah, because I hadn't heard that story.
No, you haven't, because it just happened. We really haven't got a chance to talk much since this week, but yeah, so it was cool. Yeah, I'm gonna maybe I'll reach out to Cena too and kind of get an idea, see what she thinks. Kind of throw it out there.
Well, I'm sure you had this visitation because Mercury's in retrograde and Venus is
Jesus Christ. If she tells me that I'm hanging up. If she tells me that Mercury's in retrograde and that everything is happening, past, present, and future is all happening simultaneously, I'm just going to say, Cena, I love you dearly. I got to go. I just realized I still got dinner on the stove and I can smell it starting to burn. Fire alarm's good. Do you hear it?
Look,
oh, I better get up there.
Look at that. I got a thing.
Oh, I got to go. So, and Cena, I love you, but I need an answer I can comprehend.
Very much so.
Yeah. To help me understand what it was.
Right. All right.
Or at least get an idea of what it was.
Exactly. So I would like you to tell people, Dave, to start us off.
Yeah.
On why you think thresholds
are so important.
Are important.
Thresholds are incredibly important.
All right. Thank you for those details.
There is a threshold Thank you, Carol. It was an awesome experience. There are thresholds everywhere, but the time that it really hit me was the time that we were at the old Cholera Hotel.
Oh, the tavern.
Yeah. And I even said when we were walking in, and I know you stopped and you're like, no, I'm listening to him because he's talking something about thresholds. And I want to hear what he has to say. And I don't know what it was, but something told me that that doorway was really important. And we got some phenomenal evidence at that location too. But something told me that that doorway, that threshold, crossing that, because it was an inn and it was like a post office and it was like a little general store that you could get a bowl of soup as if you were on the stagecoach kind of thing. And then cholera hit the town and they were stacking the bodies up, regretfully. And everybody died. Everybody in the town died. But there's something about that particular spot that really hit me hard with threshold. So I think that there's two things when I think of a threshold, and obviously I've expanded my research substantially since that time. But there's two things that I think generally come into play with thresholds. Number one, a threshold doesn't have to be a doorway. It's just an easy way to envision it. There are many, many types of thresholds. Okay. And Mike found that out today when he was doing his research, and we're obviously going to dig into that as we move forward here this hour. But thinking of it conceptually as just a doorway for right now, to simplify things, we all know that energy is free flowing. Okay. So why would an entity that's in a location stop at the threshold and not cross over? If it's coming, let's say that you're in the house, and let's say that you're being obnoxious, and whatever's in the house doesn't like you at all, and it starts to change the atmosphere, and you feel it, and you feel the need to leave. And as soon as you walk out of the house and you cross that threshold, everything is lighter. Everything is easier. Everything feels warm. It feels clean energy again, right? You see it all the time on shows. Well, we got to get him outside. We got to get him out of the building. We got to get him out of the basement. Well, why do you got to get him out of the basement when the entity that's in the basement is nothing but pure energy? And that entity can walk right outside with you. It's not tethered to the basement, right? So the first concept that I came up with was thresholds are a territorial thing, that the entity that is at the location doesn't want you to be there, maybe just doesn't want you to be there at all, or maybe just doesn't like what you're doing. And in the past, when other people have gone and visited, didn't mind them being there because they were, let's just say they were being, for simple terms here, let's just say they were being respectful and just trying to kind of understand what was happening there and interact in a polite way, versus somebody coming in that's challenging and threatening and condescending and agitating everything. And don't say his name because I know you're thinking that you want to interject it here. So, if that's the case, I think it's a territorial thing. I think that the entity just wants you the hell out of its space. And so could it cross over that threshold and still F with you? Absolutely it could. But it doesn't want to. It doesn't want to expend the energy to do it. It just wants you to get the hell out of its space. And so it stops right there. So you, as us, the human beings that are doing investigating, when we step over that threshold and we get out into clean air and that entity doesn't follow us any further than that, that's why we feel like we're safe, even though we're not. It's an illusion. But we feel like we are. We feel like we've escaped it. But we haven't escaped anything in reality. The entity chooses not to follow you out. The second thing I think about thresholds is that it's a portal type of thing where in certain locations, in certain buildings, at certain times, I think that you can walk through a threshold, walk through a doorway. Again, we're just keeping it simple right now, that you can walk through a doorway. And when you walk through that doorway, you could be in any one of a dozen different places, that you could experience a dozen different things. It just depends on what energy you're carrying into the situation, what your goal is, what your mindset is, what you want to have happen, what you're willing to give to have it happen, and luck plays a part of it. Is that threshold active? Is it open? Is the other side thin enough that you can have a great experience with something that normally doesn't exist in your everyday life for that moment in time? And so that's and so I'll stop there, but that's kind of what got me on thresholds. I think that they're amazing. I don't know why. I'm still researching them, so something is telling me to continue research. So I still am. I haven't found the answer I'm looking for yet, but
There were several articles that I did come across. I didn't keep them because they didn't tell me the information that I was really looking for. But they did mention about when you cross certain thresholds, that you can be someplace else. Like you can cross a threshold and be in the spirit realm,
world or realm, right?
world realm, whatever.
Or back in time in the same building. I think that you can dimensionally walk back 100 years if it's the right timing.
Well, timing is happening at the exact same time anyway. Remember, we just talked about it.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, just to confuse the shit out of everybody. Right?
I also came across a statement that I guess I had heard before, but never really put into place or anything like that. But they say don't ever step on the threshold.
Right.
You have to step over it.
Right.
So, and that would be if you were to step on it, like that would be the way to step into another, step into the spirit realm, to be someplace else. But I brought this up to you before the show, that I never heard this phrase before. And I think that it's pretty much like the technical term for threshold. And that is liminal space. So I don't know if anybody's ever heard that term before. I know I've never used it. But liminal space is a place in the physical, mental, and or spiritual world that is quote unquote in between. It's neither here nor there. And these liminal spaces are what is also known to be thresholds to the spirit world and other worlds in general. So it's not necessarily taking you to the spirit realm. It could be,
Right.
Dimension number 4,
Right.
or, something like that. Earth 62.
Well, I think when Peter and I went realm jumping that time, and I ended up over jumping when he told me to be careful and don't over jump, I think that was kind of a threshold type of thing too. He's landing with Pegasus and unicorns and having a grand old time, and I'm over ready to go to hell and the mine cart, and I get a kiss from the unicorn, like, sorry, you made it over the river because you're supposed to be on that side. So adios, amigos. I mean, it was like a kiss, like, see, like you're gonna never see me again, kind of thing. And then I get in that stupid minecart. So I mean, I think that kind of that could be considered a threshold. That I crossed over one that I went too far. I wasn't supposed to go that far.
I was actually surprised because I found this article that talks about liminal space and thresholds, and it gives a good probably 7 different types of things that are considered threshold or liminal space that I never really considered. And I even gave you an example, and you're like, like, really?
Yeah.
In fact, one of them is a topic that is going to be the topic of our Halloween show, which we'll be talking about. But so physical liminal space is considered like a threshold to the spirit world. And if you're sensitive to spirits and energy, you might be able to feel or even see these entrances easier than others. A door to the Fey realm will feel light and airy. Guess it's something to actually like pay attention to. I never really have. You might see flashing lights or auras around trees or other objects, or a pulling feeling that might occur in your chest or the third eye chakra. You may even hear music or whispering. And it says, keep your mind and heart open. Well, I'm done on those two, so I'm never going to see it. But the first one it lists, and I guess this really does actually make sense to me in a certain way, is caves. They call them underground liminal space.
Right.
And this article talks about like how caves to prehistoric times, and when cavemen that in the Incas and the Mayas and stuff like that, caves were considered an entrance to the land of the dead, the underworld. And they're talking about how prehistoric ancestors left their cave marking, or the cave markings on the walls. The Aztecs featured caves in their myths as the place of creation, namely the 7 caves of Chicomatz. I can't pronounce it. Chicomatzitac.
Close enough, man.
Close enough. Little too much C's and O's for my taste. Throw in a Z in there as well. But they revered caves and stuff like that. So, and it's in the cave, like if you want to bring up Hellier again. I mean, you and I talk about Pan every once in a while. That was in a cave,
right?
So I mean, a lot of these underground caves are considered liminal space.
I think that goes right back. I think we can reference that real quick, right back to future experimentation with music and sound. Because like we talk about at the ranch all the time, there's absolutely no reason that drum circle should have caused those rocks to start glowing hotter in the portal circle. That was an ancient Native American site. There's no explanation for that. It never should have happened, but it did. So I think that some type of vibrational energy and sound, that's why I think binaural beats work. I don't understand how it works, but I think it's really cool that it comes into your head in 2 different frequencies and the way it affects your brain. And 30 minutes, you're relaxed as hell. And you've been using it, falling asleep like a baby, you said.
Oh, I changed frequencies.
Yeah, but I mean, when you first started, you were like, what am I going to listen to that for? And then now you listen to it and you like fall right asleep.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's necessarily helping in any other way, but I know that there has been a lot of times where it's been a very physically hard day at work, and like it hurts to even roll over.
Yeah.
And I turn on 432 hertz, which apparently is supposed to heal your body. And in the next morning, I'm still minusculely sore, but I'm ready to go again.
Right. There's something to it.
But the thing about it is I don't know, like if it's at the right volume, because there's sometimes I can barely hear it because I turn it down so low.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's just a give and take. But yeah, for the past couple months, I have not had any. I can only think of one time where I've had any sort of trouble falling asleep or re-falling asleep after I wake up to go to the bathroom again.
Right.
Which is really, really good for me. So here's one you might not have considered, David. Cemeteries and graveyards are considered liminal space, and they are considered thresholds.
That's probably why I like them so much.
Maybe. because they're talking about how, you know, people come there in love and loss,
Yep.
and how it's such a whirlwind of energy, that, and it's where, you know, you and I both know spirits congregate.
Absolutely.
Um, the thing that caught my attention, because when we're talking about the place up north that you and I both like to go to,
Yep.
we've we've started asking and we've gotten responses, like either whether it's like a physical energy change when we mention uh guardians, and when we mention, you know, I know when Lauren was first developing her skills and she opened up there, she felt this very like people, like the spirits do rounds,
Yeah.
like you would like a soldier,
Yep.
you know, protecting the place.
Yep.
And in this, in the article where it talks about cemeteries and graveyards, it says, you know, there are spirits that are still attached to their bodies, as well as guardians of cemeteries who were once either human spirits or angels. That's not something I never considered. That's going to be a question next time. But
I can
it
see
said,
that though, because it's being respectful of the dead.
well, right. But it
I
says
could
when you,
see an angel watching out over something like that, you know?
so could I. I just never thought of it.
Yeah.
I always thought of them, you know, as spirits. You know,
Yeah,
the
that it's the
spirits.
people that are actually buried there kind of thing. And why else would anybody be there? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yep.
Or an elemental, you know, that sort of
Yeah,
thing.
right. The one that, yeah, the one we like definitely could have an elemental there.
Yeah. But here's what I like is when you cross the cemetery gates, you cross the threshold guarding the outside world from the land of the dead.
Yep.
The gates of cemeteries are iron to keep the spirits from getting out.
Yep.
Why do they need to keep the spirits from getting out? It's like you're it's like a prison then, isn't it?
Well,
Iron
see,
bars.
right. And then, sorry, my back is cramping up really bad. So, oh, um, so give me a second here.
That's all right.
So I think that it was out of fear back in the day when there was all the folklore of like vampires and werewolves and the dead rising and stuff like that, that they would have used, like that's where the iron gates would have originated from. um I'm sure it's just tradition to continue to use them. Again, like I talked about earlier, I you know that the spirits that are there are just energy manifestations. um I don't think that they could just go down the hill to the river, right? They don't have to go out the Iron Gate. They could just go cruise through the woods. You know what I'm saying? Like in that location in particular. I mean, I know there are some that are surrounded completely with iron gates. Does that trap them in? I don't know. It's a question I'll ask next time I'm at one that's completely encircled. You know, I mean, because the ones that we've been going to and stuff, all of those, three of those are completely wide open. They're not enclosed. They're
Yeah.
not four corner sided. They're all net like woods and river and hills, all kind of surrounding them.
Yeah, that's true.
So I mean, they've got like a mother nature type of barrier in that respect, but it's not iron. But like Oakland Cemetery, right? That that's right here, on
Mm.
it's not Roseville, or is it Roseville right on the corner? I don't know. It's right
No,
off 35E and
it is Roseville. Yeah.
yeah, I think so. So that one's completely encircled in iron. So next time I head over there, I'll take my recorder and I'll mosey around and ask and see if I get anything.
Well,
I mean, maybe.
it's definitely big enough where you could find a place away from the road and actually get
Oh God,
some
yeah.
some silence there.
Well, I've gotten some absolutely phenomenal photographs there that are, I mean, that cemetery is absolutely gorgeous. Some of those mausoleums that are in there and those uh you can't even call them a headstone, for crying out loud. The one is like 25 feet high and 20 feet wide, massive structure. It's not a headstone. But that's the one that's also the one that has the doctor who was killed by them damn engines engraved right on the headstone in 1799. He's buried in there. That's one of the coolest headstones I've seen. But anyway, I digress. So I think that it probably is just from old folklore. I don't think that is going to keep entities in. But I mean, what did the Winchester brothers use, right? Anytime they wanted to dissipate a ghost, they'd hit it with a tire iron or a iron poker from the fireplace.
Something that was iron, yeah.
Right. Yeah, something that was iron. That's what they would use, and it would kind of dissipate the spirit and chase them out. Salt would be another thing. One thing I found today that I didn't know, mountain ash is another one that works to create barriers to keep werewolves, demons, and divines from crossing. Obviously we've known salt for a long time for ghosts and spirits, and including demons from hell. And then obviously specific words even exist for angels, which obviously, again, if you reference back to Supernatural, putting all the sigils and stuff like that, and angel traps, just like when they used to catch, Crowley, and putting up the demon traps and stuff. So does that stuff work? There's got to be some kind of something. There's something to it. It worked at some time. That's why it's around. That's why people still talk about it. If it was just BS and it never worked, it would have died a long time ago. Nobody be talking about it anymore. So,
right. So this next one is something that, you had talked about earlier, doors and windows.
Yep.
So apparently our ancestors believed that spirits lingered in doorways and windowsills. And just as a door or window protects the household inhabitants from the physical world, they also protect us from the spiritual world. Spirits are attracted to the living, be it their loved ones or enemies, and may try to enter a home. But sometimes they get stuck on the threshold for one reason or another. It would be nice if they would have gone into one of those reasons.
Well, I can tell you a couple. Number one, back when they used to build real quality homes, going back, let's say 100 years, when they would, especially if you were in a Catholic neighborhood, like parts of New Jersey and that real strong Catholic kind of communities, they would, when they got done building the house, the builders that built it would celebrate life at the house. So infusing love and energy, positive energy into the house. Then before anybody moved in, it was blessed by the Catholic priest. And then the people who would go and buy the house before they moved in the house, a lot of times they would carve biblical phrases and or sayings onto the threshold, onto the wood surrounding the doorway. So that in itself kind of wards the house. So I can totally see how if a spirit with malintentions is going to try to cross that threshold, and you've got this kind of warding sigil thing up that you believe in, and you've asked God or a specific angel to come down and protect your house and your family within that house, I could see how that entity would get caught like that in like a fly trap or spider web. I mean, so they would be suspended in there. They can't get in, and maybe that screws them up and they can't get back out. Like maybe they're in limbo there. Maybe that's some kind of power that we don't understand.
Maybe.
I know in Judaism, they used to take like the ancient Hebrew scrolls, and they would kind of stuff them into the door jambs before they put the casing on there. So they kind of warded themselves in their religious beliefs to keep anything evil from crossing the threshold of their door.
So do you know the name Scott Cunningham?
Scott Cunningham. Not off the top of my head.
I don't. But so he's the only name that's mentioned here. But and this is what I find interesting. And I'm torn between I want somebody to do this and I don't want anybody to do this.
All right, lay it on me. We'll see if I'm going to do it or not.
He says it's possible to step through a door into the world of spirits, just as we step through a door into a building or to the outside world.
Right.
Scott Cunningham says to leave your front door ajar just a bit during twilight hours, then peer outside. You may see the spirit world. I'd never heard that before.
I have not heard that before.
So I don't know if he's.
It sounds like the start of a good book or a short film.
Probably.
I don't think that would work.
Maybe it's the whole belief thing.
Maybe.
It's
I don't know that I could get behind that even in the first place. So therefore it probably wouldn't work for me at all.
No, probably not me either.
Yeah.
It doesn't say how long to leave it. It just says sometime later, peer outside.
Right. And see what?
The spirit world.
See an alternative universe appear right in my front yard because I left my door ajar? I don't think so.
I guess I don't know.
I know.
I
understand. I'm saying I can't get behind that. I think it takes more than leaving your door cracked in order to open up a portal into another realm. I'm sorry. Maybe I'm being a little naive here, but I think it takes just a little bit more energy than that.
Who knows? Maybe it's all about the intent.
Maybe.
If I open up the door a crack because I want, to let some air out and air in and get some circulation, then I'm not going to look out the window or look out the door in a couple, in an hour or whatever and see the spirit world.
No, right.
But maybe if my intent is to do that. So anyway, the next threshold, in this, it adds in a bunch of other things, and this is really important to me because I've been asking this question for a very long time. But this one, the liminal space, is the edge of the woods.
Sorry about that.
Sorry.
I don't know if you could hear that. It got awful loud there. It's a hot water heater was kicking on.
Yeah, it's all right. Just thought maybe you were taking a whiz or something.
No. Water tank just all of a sudden decided it was time to warm up.
Gotcha. So it starts off this thing about the edge of the woods, with corners, edges, doorways. All of these things have a common factor. They mark the perimeter of a place. And you were talking earlier about why doesn't a spirit just walk outside with them and continue its attack? And that's exactly what that reminded me of is, well, maybe it doesn't need to, because all it wants is that perimeter of the room that it's in.
And that very well could be.
But, and I posed this question to you, and I don't really know the answer yet, but if a threshold is a corner because it marks the perimeter of something, maybe that's why spirits are always seen standing in the corner, because they can't go anyplace else. They can't cross the threshold beyond that corner.
Right.
I don't know if that's...
It's a possibility. I mean, spirits love, and I don't know why this is, and I've seen spirits in the middle of the day. I've seen them in antique stores, and I mean, I've seen them all over the place. I've seen them at cemeteries in the middle of the day, at old hotels, but I don't know why it seems like the majority of the time when we actually see an apparition, it's either in the corner, like you just said, or it's in the basement, or it's in the attic, or it's in a closet. Like, get the hell out of those spaces and get out in the open. Show up in the backyard on a nice day, right? Get the hell out of the closet. I hate that shit, man. It's just mental PTSD from when I was a kid. But
I know.
I hate that.
So,
closet dwellers.
Exactly. So the edge of the woods marks the beginning or the end of a group of trees, plants, and animals. It's teeming with the spirits of the nature, like fairies and tree spirits, forest guardians, the green man, and more. Now, what's the green man?
I would say that's like an element. I would say that's like a generic term for like an elemental. Would be my guess.
It's got a link, but I haven't clicked on it. So therefore, when you cross the threshold into the woods, you cross into the forest spirit realm. And it says, we've all heard stories of people getting lost in the woods and experiencing creepy things. Yep. And it says, I wonder if this is because the forest spirits are feeling territorial.
So for many modern pagans, the green man is used as a symbol of seasonal renewal and ecological awareness. In Wicca, the green man has often been used as a representation of a horned god, a Syncretic deity that incorporates aspect of, among others, the Celtic Cunarus and the Greek Pan.
There's Pan again.
Mm-hmm. Well, Pan would make sense to me as the green man is part of like rebirth and stuff like that. There's actually a lot of stuff on it. Maybe it'll be a future show.
Maybe we've talked about like Glimmer Man, stuff like that.
Yeah, actually, you see a lot of it in symbolism in architecture too. Like I just glancing at it here, there's a lot of architecture that has this Celtic face of what the green man is. So it's actually an article here from the Library of Congress talking about the green man. So anyway, that could be a future show, but go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
That's all right. Since you mentioned the Celtics or whatever,
Yeah.
I'll just do this one. The seashore and beaches of all kinds are known as liminal places. They bridge the gap between the earth and the ocean. It is another powerful threshold to the spirit world. The ancient Celts believed that the spirit world was under the ocean. Mm-hmm. In addition, we all know that water is a conduit for spirits, which adds to the sacredness of the seashore. Elemental spirit. I didn't know this either. I'd like your take on it. Elemental spirits gather at the seashore and are more active during a full moon. Ever heard of ghosts along a seashore? Yes, we have.
Mm-hmm.
It's no wonder there are ghost ships and spirits seen walking along the beach. I don't know if ghost ships are seen walking along the beach, but I get
most likely not. But you never know, right? I mean, don't be judgmental now.
But
I would. Well, we don't live anywhere near an ocean, so that would be a difficult thing for us to investigate.
Well, the ocean, sure, but I mean, they're talking about seashore and beaches. I mean, what about all of our lakes?
Yeah, right. So I mean, we could go find a beach, like that we could go to at night, and just kind of see what the energy's like. I will say this, and I've had people tell me this for a long time, and I don't know if this has anything to do with what we're talking about, but it's interesting, so I'll mention it. I can go to I love the ocean for some reason. Like when I'm cremated, when I die and get cremated, I want my remains thrown in the ocean. But like when I can go to the ocean, there's been many instances of this, and it's completely calm, like little tiny lap waves, just little itty bitty lap waves coming in. And I get there and I'm like, oh man, it's nice to be here and get kids all set up or whoever I'm with, whatever. And then go out and put my feet in the ocean. And as soon as I do, like 2 to 3 footers, they're crashing on the shore. And it has happened more times than I would like to admit. And I don't believe in coincidences. So I don't know if there's some sort of energy there that it doesn't like my energy. And so every time I'm there, it's like, I don't want you here kind of things. So I don't know. I know I'm reaching to that's some distant reach right there, but I thought I'd mention it since we're talking about, the gathering of spirits and fae and mythical creatures at the ocean seashore.
Yeah. I mean, the reason that that seems interesting to me is because, I mean, how many different shows have like angels meeting at the shoreline?
Yeah.
That was the big thing, is that the angels always come and they stand on the shoreline at dawn.
Yeah.
And stuff like, and so it was interesting to me that, that they would talk about how elementals and stuff like that gather at the shoreline, or more active during the full moon.
I mean, they probably do. You know,
No,
I mean, I'm sure it probably happens.
I mean, there's got to be definitely no better like energy generator than the waves of the
Than the
ocean,
ocean, right?
than the waves of the ocean. Um, I mean, it could be why, Duluth and along St. Lake Superior, is so active and haunted just because of
It's
all the
just
deaths and all the energy and the sheer massiveness of the lake,
in depth
the depth
and the
and
cold.
all great things.
I'm telling you what, I'll never forget when I'm up there years and years ago visiting Sam, and she takes me to Black Beach, and it's like 86 degrees in July. It's beautiful. We got our suits on, and I've never seen Black Beach before, and I'm like, this is so cool. And the water there is just gin clear, and it's only about 2 feet deep. And I'm like, dude, and she's like, Dad, and I'm like, what? And I jump in the lake, and I'm like, ah,
Eh,
and I jump right back out of the lake, and I'm like, how can it be this cold on an 86-degree sunny day when it's only 2 feet deep? It was like 40 degrees. I'm like, what is happening to this lake? It was crazy. It's the craziest thing. It's one of the craziest water things I've ever experienced in my life. I was in that water for like 30 seconds, and when I got out, my legs were numb. I have no idea how that water was that cold. And it was such a beautiful day, and the sun beating down on shallow water. I have no idea how it was that cold. I don't understand it, but anyway.
well, here's something you will understand because you won't
Yes.
find this at all surprising. Is
Probably
that
not.
one of the thresholds and liminal spaces are mirrors.
Oh, absolutely.
Mhm.
100%.
They talked about how obviously they're thresholds or doorways to the spirit world. We talk about that all the time.
Yep.
Um, you know, people and families and stuff, especially not so much recent times, although some people still do, where they cover the mirrors after someone in the family dies to prevent
Dies.
the soul from getting trapped.
Valeska Axe Murder House.
Yep. Many
It pops right into my head.
I love how it says here many people refuse to keep mirrors in their bedrooms because mirrors, quote unquote, freak them out. And they put a parentheses here, and I really want to address this just because it's like, wow. But it says, to be honest, I have 3+ mirrors in my bedroom and I've never had a problem. Why do you need 3+ mirrors in one room? Like that,
Arrogance,
that's crazy business.
vanity.
It's
Yeah.
got to be vanity.
I will tell you this. If I bought like the next house I buy, if I buy and like the master bedroom has those mirrored closet doors, that's the first thing that's leaving. Guarantee you. You will see them they'll be nicely laid out at the edge of the driveway with a free sign on them. And I just won't have doors on my closet for a while until I buy some new ones that I like. There is no way in hell I would sleep in a room with mirrored closet doors.
Yeah, I
Way
can
too
see
much
that.
glass, way too much reflection, way too much opportunity for something to come creeping in while I'm sleeping.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Not going to happen.
Um,
Not giving you that easy of an avenue to get to me. I have no mirrors in my bedroom, by the way.
I had the one in the back of my door, but that's it.
Yeah, I have none. I haven't had a mirror in my bedroom since I was a little kid.
And
I
the only
broke it
reason, that mirror's
intentionally.
there is because it was there when I moved in. But this article mentioned Myrtle's plantation and that
Yep.
haunted mirror.
Yep.
It
A lot
talks.
of that pareidolia, but
I agree.
But that's not to say that some of it isn't a legitimate catch.
Right. I'm not saying it's
You know,
not possible. I'm saying, but a
I'm not
lot
saying,
of it
yeah,
is
exactly.
pareidolia. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, pareidolia. Yeah. So, but like anything, right? If there's 1,000 photographs taken out of that 1,000, there's 5 or 8 that are legitimate. It's just which 5 or 8 are legitimate and which 996 of them aren't, because you think you see something in it, and then you tell people what you see, and then right away they see it too.
Yep.
And even we do that to each other.
Sure.
What do you think that looks like? Well, I don't know. It looks like a guy. I can see his nose and his ear and da da da. Oh yeah, I see that too. You know,
There are some things in here, and I'm only gonna tell you, I'm not gonna go into any detail just because I don't know if I necessarily believe in these things as being like thresholds. Especially since there's only 4 minutes left. But
well,
it
I got
says,
something I want to throw in at the end here too. Take about a minute and a half. So
okay,
leave me a minute and a half.
we'll do fairs, festivals, and marketplaces, groves, like a grove of trees, hedge groves. So like when people have like those big hedges.
Oh, like in England with those big gardens.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
that's what that reminds me of.
Um, abandoned places as liminal space. Now, this is where I think it's more arrogance than anything. It says, why would an abandoned place be a liminal space? And he says, look at it this way: they are places that but are no longer used by humans. So they're technically no longer places in the human eye. Therefore, they have no, they're neither here nor there, which makes them a threshold.
Absolutely doesn't make sense at all.
The only thing that makes it a little bit of sense, because I get it, is that a lot of spirits congregate there. And they do, because there's no humans there.
Right. It's a quiet space for them.
So yeah. And then the only thing that I waited till the end for, because it's going to be a future show in a couple weeks, is they consider the crossroads to be the ultimate liminal space, because there are several deities, there are several spirits, there are a lot of paranormal association with crossroads.
Mm-hmm.
And we are going to be talking about the crossroads and the crossroad demon and everything like that in a couple weeks for our Halloween show.
Yep.
So with that said, Mr. Sawyer, 2 minutes.
Got it. Carol, great move. No mirrors in your bedroom. I love it. Okay, so this is ways to strengthen a threshold at your home. All right. Easy. So the more truly a home is a home, the stronger the threshold tends to be. For instance, a private home built with the idea imprinted in every piece of it is that it is a home, so that from the moment it is finished, it has the start of a threshold. When families move in, the love, the energy, the companionship, all of that strengthens the surroundings. It also strengthens that threshold from negative or parasitic type entities to have easy access to get into your space. Hotel rooms, offices, and other public buildings generally, and this would make sense if you think about it, don't have strong thresholds because that's the feeling that I got when we were talking, going back to the beginning, when we were talking about the general store and the stagecoach and stuff on the cholera outbreak. So that had so many people coming through it that there wasn't any type of strength to that threshold. It felt to me like it was just spirits constantly walking in and out nonstop. What else do I want to say? The longer threshold is occupied in a home, the stronger the threshold tends to be. So year 1, you move in, it's going to be strong with a lot of love in the family. Year 10, with that continued love and family and companionship and great moments that you experience, is going to be substantially stronger. That goes hand in hand with the longer you've lived in a house, the stronger the threshold is. The more people live together, the more the bond becomes greater. And then the more cumulative emotions and personal history over time that reinforce a sense of unity and safety inside a home, especially across multiple generations, the stronger the threshold tends to be. So that would be a perfect example of what I was talking about when they were building houses 100 years ago, and they gave it a love, like the builders cast it off to the new owner with this great party and a lot of love and positivity. Then a priest came in and blessed it. Then the homeowners, like, let's just say that they carved some sayings out of the Bible into the door frame, and then they lived there and had a beautiful life and a beautiful family, and then multiple generations lived there. There's not going to be any parasitic entities crossing that threshold. It ain't going to happen. It's going to be one of those moments like we talk about all the time, right? The path of least resistance. they're going to come to that doorway and be like, yeah, whatever. Look it down the street. See that one right there on the left? Let's go over there. And that's what's going to happen. So there is ways to strengthen your threshold if you believe in it. I do. So I strengthen mine all the time. If you believe in it, there are ways to strengthen it. So love, positivity, caring, sharing, all the good stuff.
Absolutely. So with that said, why don't
Great
you
guest next week.
I was going to say I was just about to say, why don't you go ahead and tell people who we have on next week?
We do. So a friend of mine who lives out in the Sedona area, incredible woman, is a wealth of knowledge. Dr. Kathy Chapman is going to be our guest next week for the full 2 hours. She is going to discuss everything from healing work to probably her UFO sightings and everything in between.
And her doctor or PhD comes in metaphysics.
And her PhD, right, is in metaphysics. Yeah.
So should be
She's
exceptional
an energy healer. I mean, she does everything. She's a phenomenal person to talk to. So it's going to be great to have her on for 2 hours.
Yeah, it's going to be a great interview. Everybody's going to learn so much. I'm sure I'm going to crack some inappropriate jokes.
That's all right. I already warned her about you.
As you should have.
I did.
So that does it for our show this week. As Dave said, we'll be back next week with a brand new episode. So until then, stay healthy, stay safe. We want to see you back here. Everybody, have a great evening.